Oman, 1970. Jebel Akhdar Mountains. British Special Air Service operators move through desert terrain toward enemy positions. They haven't bathed in 43 days. Their uniforms are stiff with sweat, dirt, and body oils accumulated over 6 weeks of continuous operations. The smell is overwhelming, a mixture of unwashed human bodies, weapon lubricant, and rotting fabric. Local Omani soldiers refuse to stand down from them. Enemy fighters smell the British approaching from 300 meters away, calling them the ones who smell like death. The SAS operators don't care. They've discovered something tactical doctrine never taught. Human scent becomes a weapon when used deliberately. Hygiene creates vulnerability. Cleanliness leaves trace evidence. Soap smells travel kilometers through desert air. The disgusting truth is that elite soldiers operating deep behind enemy lines survive by becoming indistinguishable from the environment. That means smelling like animals, living like animals, accepting that humanity is a luxury that gets you killed. This is the story of how the world's premier special operations force weaponized filth, turned disgust into tactical advantage, and proved that sometimes survival requires abandoning every standard of civilized behavior. If you want more stories like this, make sure to subscribe, like, and share. Malaya, 1952. Perak Jungle. Dawn breaks through triple canopy rainforest, humidity already oppressive. For British Special Air Service soldiers move in single file through dense vegetation, spacing 5 meters apart. They've been in the jungle for 11 days, hunting communist insurgents who ambush rubber plantation workers. The patrol carries everything needed for extended operations: weapons, ammunition, rations, water purification tablets, radio. They also carry standard British Army hygiene kits: soap bars wrapped in wax paper, safety razors, shaving cream, toothpaste, small towels. Maintaining military standards even in wilderness. Keeping discipline through appearance. Looking like soldiers despite jungle conditions. The patrol never makes contact. Communist guerrillas, the Malayan race's liberation army, detect them consistently, fade into the jungle before engagement, and reappear elsewhere. Pattern repeats across weeks. British patrols insert, move carefully through terrain, find nothing, extract frustration. The communists seem to possess supernatural awareness, detecting SAS presence before visual contact. British commanders study intelligence reports, question captured guerrillas, search for explanations. Technology seems unlikely. Communist forces lack sophisticated detection equipment. Training appears insufficient. Explanation: SAS operators move with professional silence, proper field craft, tactical discipline superior to insurgent capabilities. The answer emerges gradually through prisoner interrogations. Captured communist soldiers describe detecting British patrols through smell, not sweat. Everyone sweats in the tropical jungle. Something else, something artificial, something foreign to the jungle environment. British intelligence officers investigate further. Captured documents reference the soap soldiers, the ones who smell like flowers. Foreign ghosts betrayed by their cleanliness. The pattern becomes clear. British Army hygiene products contain fragrances that carry through humid air, announcing patrol presence hundreds of meters away. The SAS hierarchy debates implications. Military tradition emphasizes hygiene. Clean soldiers are disciplined soldiers. Appearance reflects professionalism. Standards prevent disease. But tactical reality contradicts doctrine. Soap, shaving cream, toothpaste all contain scents that betray operations. The choice becomes stark: maintain standards or achieve mission success. Compromise seems impossible. Either smell like soldiers or operate effectively. Not both. Major John Woodhouse, commanding 20th SAS Regiment in Malaya, makes a controversial decision. Deep reconnaissance patrols will operate without hygiene products. No soap, no shaving cream, no toothpaste, no deodorant. Soldiers will carry only tactical necessities: weapons, ammunition, rations, water, medical supplies, radio. Everything else is eliminated. The directive generates resistance. British soldiers trained to maintain appearance, shave daily, wash regularly, look professional regardless of conditions. Abandoning standards feels like abandoning identity. First patrols experiment reluctantly. 4-man teams insert into the jungle carrying no hygiene items. Day 1 feels normal, bodies relatively clean from recent bathing, faces recently shaved, teeth recently brushed. Day 3 brings discomfort, skin feels oily, stubble itches, teeth feel fuzzy. Day 7 creates revulsion, body odor intensifies, hair becomes greasy, clothing stiffens with dried sweat. Soldiers endure conditions psychologically difficult to accept. They've been trained that cleanliness equals professionalism. Now they're living like animals, but tactical results prove doctrine correct. Patrols operate to weeks without detection. They observe communist camps unnoticed, track insurgent movements, gather intelligence previously unattainable. When contact occurs, it happens on British terms, ambushes initiated by SAS rather than communists, engagements controlled by operators who achieve surprise. The communist ability to detect approaching patrols disappears completely. The insurgents no longer smell British soldiers coming. Captured documents later reveal communist confusion. Intelligence reports describe British patrols that smelled different, not like soap and chemicals, but like the jungle itself. The communists cannot distinguish SAS operators from local or Osli tribespeople who live in the jungle without modern hygiene products. The British become invisible not just visually but olfactorily. They blend into the environment completely. Medical officers raise concerns. Skin infections increase among operators conducting extended dirty operations. Dental problems emerge, cavities, gum disease, oral infections from weeks without brushing. Fungal conditions develop in tropical heat and humidity. The costs are real, documented, measurable, but operational effectiveness improves dramatically. Commanders weigh benefits against risks and conclude that tactical advantages outweigh medical consequences. Infections can be treated after operations. Dead soldiers cannot. The psychological adjustment proves more difficult than physical discomfort. British soldiers define themselves through discipline, appearance, standards. Living filthy contradicts self-image as professional warriors. Early patrols struggle with cognitive dissonance. They look like defeated refugees, smell like homeless vagrants, feel less than human. Some operators request transfer, unwilling to accept conditions. Others push through initial revulsion, discovering that standards are contextual. Civilization has rules. The jungle has different rules. Survival requires adapting. Senior SAS operators develop a philosophical framework justifying abandonment of hygiene. They're not becoming unprofessional. They're becoming more professional, adapting to operational requirements rather than clinging to inappropriate standards. A soldier who maintains parade ground appearance in combat zones prioritizes ego over effectiveness. True professionalism means doing what the mission requires, not what makes you comfortable. If a mission requires living filthy, a professional soldier accepts that requirement. The bar of soap becomes a symbolic dividing line. Soldiers operating with soap remain detectable, vulnerable, constrained by civilization standards. Soldiers operating without soap become invisible, effective, liberated from inappropriate conventions. The soap represents what must be abandoned for operational success. Some operators photograph their soap bars before insertion, joking about saying goodbye to civilization. Others deliberately leave soap behind at base. Ritual separation from normal life. By 1953, SAS doctrine formally incorporated hygiene elimination during deep reconnaissance. Training teaches new operators that appearance standards apply at base, not in an operational environment. Selection candidates learn early. Discomfort is temporary. Mission success is permanent. Those who cannot accept living filthy fail selection not because they lack physical capability, but because they prioritize personal comfort over operational effectiveness. The discovery extends beyond Malaya. SAS deploys to operations worldwide: Borneo, Oman, Northern Ireland, Falklands, Middle East. Each environment teaches similar lessons. Modern hygiene products betray presence through scent, sound, waste, logistical burden. Soap requires water for washing, water that could be used for drinking. Razors require concentration and light, both dangerous during operations. Toothpaste creates mini scent detectable at distance. Deodorant announces presence to any enemy with a functional nose. The contrast with conventional forces becomes stark. Regular British Army soldiers maintain hygiene standards, strictly daily shaving, regular washing, clean uniforms whenever possible. They look professional, disciplined, and military. They also create a logistical burden requiring water, time, and supplies. SAS operators look disgusting unwashed, unshaven, uniforms stiff with grime. They also operate for weeks without resupply, move undetected through hostile territory, achieve mission success impossible for conventional units. Enemy forces begin recognizing SAS presence not through smell, but through lack of smell. Conventional soldiers smell like soap, aftershave, laundry detergent. SAS operators smell like nothing artificial, just human body odor, weapon lubricant, earth, vegetation. The absence of modern scents becomes signature itself. Communist guerrillas learn to differentiate. Conventional patrols announce themselves through hygiene products. Special forces patrols announce themselves through natural smell. Both create signatures, but natural smell blends with the environment better than artificial fragrances. The psychological transformation fascinates military psychologists who study SAS operators post-deployment. Soldiers report initial disgust giving way to acceptance, eventually transforming into preference. After weeks without washing, skin develops natural protective oils. Hair self-regulates oil production. The body adapts to filth as a normal state. Some operators report difficulty returning to regular hygiene. Soap feels harsh. Shaving seems unnecessary. Constant washing irritates skin conditioned to natural oils. The body adapts to the absence of modern hygiene faster than the mind adjusts psychologically. The Malayan emergency ended in 1960. Communist insurgency defeated through combination of military action and political reform. SAS operations contribute significantly to victory. Deep reconnaissance, providing intelligence that enables targeting communist leadership, disrupting supply networks, denying safe havens. The tactical advantage gained through abandoning hygiene proves critical. Invisible patrols operating undetected for weeks provided capabilities conventional forces could not match. The lessons learned in Malayan jungle become SAS institutional knowledge. Hygiene is situational. Standards appropriate for garrison are inappropriate for operations. Professional soldiers recognize differences, adapt accordingly, and accept discomfort as operational reality. The bar of soap sitting in base supplies represents civilization comfort, standards, normalcy. The absence of that soap bar in operational packs represents effectiveness, adaptation, survival, mission success. The discovery made in the Perak jungle transformed special operations doctrine permanently. Elite forces worldwide adopted similar approaches, recognizing that deep reconnaissance requires abandoning modern conventions. The disgusting truth that smelling terrible provides tactical advantage became accepted wisdom among operators who work where civilization ends and survival begins. Borneo, 1964. Indonesian border region. For SAS operators, insert by helicopter into the primary jungle. Beginning a 6-week reconnaissance mission during confrontation undeclared war between Indonesia and newly formed Malaysia. The patrol carries no soap, no razors, no toothpaste, no deodorant. Their packs contain only tactical essentials, weapons, ammunition, rations, water purification tablets, medical kit, radio, maps, compass. Total weight, 65 pounds per man. Every ounce justified by operational necessity. Nothing carried for comfort or convention. Sergeant Mike Reeves leads the patrol. 10 years SAS experience. Malaya veteran, comfortable operating dirty. His philosophy is simple. Soap is luxury. Luxuries get you killed. The 3 junior operators to corporals, 1 trooper have less experience, but trust their sergeant completely. They know the doctrine. They've trained for this. But training differs from reality. Living filthy for 6 weeks requires mental adjustment. No classroom teaching provides. Day 1 proceeds normally. Body still clean from the final shower before insertion. Skin feels normal. Breath smells are acceptable. Uniforms are relatively fresh despite helicopter ride and initial movement. The operators establish a patrol base 3 kilometers from the landing zone, hidden position under dense vegetation, minimal ground disturbance, good observation of surrounding terrain. They eat cold rations, drink treated water from nearby streams, and settle into a routine that will define the next 6 weeks. Day 3 brings first discomfort. Tropical heat and humidity create constant sweating. Uniforms become saturated, never fully dry. Salt crystallizes on skin, creating itchy residue. Stubble grows on faces, irritating in heat. Teeth feel fuzzy despite chewing gum provided as a substitute for brushing. Bodies begin smelling of sweat, sharp, acrid, increasingly noticeable. The operators recognize odor but accept it. Discomfort is temporary. Detection is fatal. Day 7 marks psychological threshold. Body odor intensifies from noticeable to overwhelming. Skin feels constantly oily, sebaceous glands producing natural oils without soap to remove them. Hair becomes greasy, matted, uncomfortable. Clothing stiffens with accumulated sweat. Dirt. Body oils creating almost cardboard-like texture. The smell permeates everything: packs, weapons, equipment, sleeping bags. No escape from the pervasive odor of unwashed humans living in tropical jungles. The younger operators struggle psychologically. British military culture emphasizes cleanliness: polished boots, pressed uniforms, clean-shaven appearance. Living filthy contradicts every standard they've internalized. One corporal admits feeling less than human, disgusted by his own smell, embarrassed by appearance despite no one seeing them except each other. The trooper obsesses about teeth, running tongue over plaque buildup, convinced cavities are forming, missing toothpaste desperately. Sergeant Reeves recognizes crisis developing. He gathers patrol during evening halt, addresses psychology directly. You feel disgusting. Good, that means you're adapting correctly. We're not soldiers anymore, we're predators. Predators don't bathe. They don't shave. They don't worry about how they smell. They worry about staying alive and completing their mission. Your body is becoming a weapon. The smell you hate is camouflage keeping us invisible. Accept it or fail. The speech shifts perspective. Operators stop viewing filth as failure and start recognizing it as adaptation. They're not abandoning standards, they're adopting different standards appropriate for the environment. Civilization has hygiene rules. The jungle has survival rules. Professional operators follow rules that matter for the current situation. Day 14 brings physical transformation visible to patrol members. Skin develops a thick oil layer, natural protective coating against insects, vegetation, and minor abrasions. Hair self-regulates oil production, becoming less greasy after initial weeks of overproduction. Bodies adapt to constant filth as normal. Most remarkable, operators stop noticing their own smell. Olfactory fatigue: constant exposure to strong odor desensitizes the nose, making smell imperceptible to those creating it while remaining overwhelming to others. The tactical advantages become obvious during enemy observation. The patrol position itself overlooking the Indonesian army camp across the border. They remain in place 72 hours, observing troop movements, counting soldiers, identifying equipment, radioing intelligence. The camp sits 400 meters away. Indonesian sentries patrol the perimeter regularly, but they never detect SAS presence. No artificial scents betray position. No soap smell carries through jungle air. No shaving cream fragrance announces intruders. The SAS operators smell like jungle itself: earth, vegetation, organic decay. They've become part of the environment. One Indonesian patrol passes within 20 meters of SAS position during routine sweep. The 4 SAS operators freeze, weapons ready, prepared for contact. Indonesian soldiers walk past, talking casually, completely unaware of British presence. After they pass, the trooper whispers to the sergeant, "They walked right past us." Reeves responds, "Because we don't smell like soldiers. We smell like a jungle. They're looking for enemies. We're invisible. Water conservation provides a secondary benefit of eliminating hygiene. Conventional soldiers require water for drinking and washing approximately 6 liters daily per person in tropical conditions, 2 liters for hydration. For hygiene, SAS patrol requires only drinking water 2 liters per person daily. The reduction means carrying less water, reducing pack weight, extending time between resupply, increasing operational range. Mathematics favor filth. 3 soldiers can operate on water required for 2 clean soldiers. Waste elimination creates additional advantages. Conventional hygiene generates trash, soap wrappers, toothpaste tubes, razor cartridges, shaving cream cans. This trash must be packed out or buried, both creating problems. Packed trash adds weight. Buried trash leaves archaeological evidence of presence. SAS operators generate only food packaging waste, minimal trash, easily burned or packed out. No hygiene product waste to manage, hide, or transport. Day 21 marks halfway point. Patrol extracts to the border base for resupply, then reinserts for a second 3-week period. The extraction provides first exposure to clean soldiers. Base personnel recoil from approaching SAS operators. Smell reaches them before visual contact. One supply sergeant refuses approaching within 5 meters, hands supplies at arm's length. Visibly disgusted, the SAS operators find the reaction amusing, confirming their camouflage works perfectly. A medical officer examines them during a brief extraction, documents multiple skin infections, bacterial and fungal conditions common in tropical environments, exacerbated by lack of washing, prescribes topical antibiotics, antifungal creams. Also notes dental concerns, plaque buildup, early gum inflammation, beginning cavity formation. The medical officer questions doctrine. Is operational advantage worth these health risks? Sergeant Reeves responds, dead men don't get cavities. We'll treat infections after the mission completes. The second insertion proceeds with greater comfort. Operators no longer struggle psychologically with filth. They've accepted new normal, bodies adapted, minds adjusted, standards recalibrated. The transformation from civilized soldiers to effective predators feels complete. They move through the jungle with confidence born from experience. Clean soldiers get detected. Filthy soldiers survive. Day 35 brings encounters demonstrating doctrine's value. Patrol observes Indonesian soldiers bathing in streams, washing uniforms, shaving using mirrors propped against trees. The scene looks absurdly civilized, soldiers maintaining appearance standards despite operating in the wilderness. The SAS operators watch from concealment 30 meters away, undetected because they abandon the same standards Indonesian soldiers maintain. The contrast couldn't be clearer. Civilized soldiers announce presence, wild soldiers remain invisible. Day 42 marks mission completion. Patrol extracts by helicopter, returns to base, undergoes decontamination. The process takes hours, multiple showers removing weeks of accumulated grime, hair cutting and shaving, uniform burning rather than cleaning, medical treatment for infections. The bar of soap reappears, symbol of civilization reclaimed. But something has changed. The operators no longer view cleanliness as the default state. They recognize hygiene as situational luxury, appropriate when safe, abandoned when necessary. Post-mission debrief documents results. 6 weeks undetected surveillance, comprehensive intelligence gathered, 0 compromises, mission complete success. The intelligence collected enables targeting Indonesian infiltration routes, disrupting supply networks, and preventing cross-border attacks. The operational effectiveness validates doctrine. Living filthy provides tactical advantage worth medical costs and psychological discomfort. The patrol members report unexpected difficulty readjusting to hygiene. Skin reacts badly to soap. Rashes develop from chemicals contacting skin adapted to natural oils. Shaving causes irritation. Skin toughened by beard growth bleeds easily when razor applied. Constant washing feels excessive. Bodies conditioned to filth perceive frequent cleaning as unnatural. The adaptation to filth proves easier than readaptation to cleanliness. Family reunions create awkward moments. Wives notice husbands smell different even after multiple showers, something fundamental changed in body chemistry after weeks without washing. Children react cautiously to fathers who look different, act different, carry themselves with predator awareness inappropriate for civilian life. The psychological transformation from civilized husband to wild operator proves difficult reversing completely, but mission success matters more than comfort. The bar of soap sits in the supply room, available when needed, abandoned when survival requires. Professional operators understand distinction. Civilization provides standards for civilized conditions. Wilderness requires different standards. The truly professional soldier knows which standards apply to the current situation and possesses courage to abandon inappropriate ones regardless of psychological cost. The lessons learned in Borneo jungle reinforce doctrine established in Malaya. Elite operations require abandoning civilized conventions, accepting that effectiveness matters more than appearance, recognizing that sometimes smelling like death is exactly what keeps you alive. Oman, 1972. Dhofar Province, Jebel Massif Mountains. British SAS conducts counter-insurgency operations against Marxist guerrillas, the Popular Front for the Liberation of Oman. The communist insurgents control mountain regions, launch attacks on government positions, and receive support from South Yemen. Sultan Qaboos bin Said requests British military assistance. The SAS deploys with a mission: locate guerrilla bases, gather intelligence, train government forces, conduct direct action when opportunities arise. 8-man SAS patrol operates from forward base near Mirbat. They've been in the field for 43 days without bathing. The Dhofar region offers no jungle concealment like Malaya or Borneo open desert, sparse vegetation, clear sightlines extending kilometers. Traditional camouflage proves less effective, but SAS discovered an alternative. In a desert environment, smell carries extraordinary distances through dry air. The human nose, evolved over millions of years, detects specific chemical compounds produced by unwashed bodies at ranges exceeding visual identification distance. The patrol smells like nothing civilized. 43 days of accumulated body odor, dried sweat, and unchanged clothing creates a stench that precedes them by hundreds of meters. Local Omani soldiers allied with the British refuse to stand downwind. Civilians in mountain villages detect approaching patrol before visual contact. Even camels, animals notorious for their own smell, show agitation when SAS operators pass nearby. The odor transcends normal human body odor into something primal, disturbing, almost threatening. Squadron Commander Major Tony Jeps recognizes accidental psychological warfare potential. During debrief of Omani soldiers who encountered SAS patrol, the local commander described a guerrilla reaction to the British presence. They call your men the ones who smell like death. They say the smell reaches them before they see movement. They say it smells like disease, like bodies left in the sun, like something unnatural. Some fighters refuse approaching areas where your men operated, fearing the smell indicates plague or evil spirits. Jeps understands immediately. The SAS accidentally created psychological weapons more effective than any propaganda. Enemy soldiers encountering the smell experience a primal disgust response. Biological reaction evolved to protect humans from disease, death, decay. The guerrillas cannot distinguish between the smell of unwashed SAS operators and the smell associated with corpses, illness, and danger. Their subconscious triggers fear response before the conscious mind processes information. The reaction is involuntary, unavoidable, deeply unsettling. The SAS begins weaponizing odor deliberately. Patrols extend operational periods from 4 weeks to 8 weeks without hygiene. Operators stop even rinsing with water, allowing skin oils, dirt, sweat to accumulate without any cleaning. Clothing never washes. Uniforms become stiff with biological residue. The smell intensifies beyond description, a mix of ammonia from urine-soaked clothing, butyric acid from bacterial breakdown of sweat, sulfur compounds from bacterial activity, or organic decay smell from accumulated dead skin cells. Tactical applications multiply. Interrogation proves remarkably effective when conducted by unwashed operators. Captured guerrillas brought to SAS forward base find themselves questioned by soldiers whose smell triggers physical nausea. The psychological pressure proves more effective than threats. Prisoners eagerly provide information in exchange for being moved away from the overwhelming odor. No torture required, just proximity to men who smell like biological hazards. Village visits achieve intelligence gathering success through similar mechanisms. SAS patrols visit mountain settlements suspected of supporting guerrillas, simply walk through villages, and conduct presence patrols. The smell alone creates a memorable experience. Civilians remember the visit viscerally, discuss it with neighbors, and tell stories about the British who smell like gin. When SAS returns seeking information, villagers cooperate readily to avoid extended exposure. The smell creates an incentive structure requiring no threats. Enemy ambushes fail repeatedly due to olfactory early warning. Guerrillas attempting to ambush SAS patrols position themselves downwind, standard tactical practice preventing prey from detecting hunter approach. But SAS smell reaches ambush positions before operators arrive. Visually, guerrillas smell the approaching patrol 300 meters away, become unsettled, lose tactical patience, sometimes withdraw completely rather than face the smell at close range. The psychological impact of overwhelming odor disrupts enemy decision-making. Scientific explanation exists for weaponized smell effectiveness. Human bodies unwashed for extended periods produce volatile, organic compounds through bacterial action on sebum, sweat, dead skin cells. These compounds include isovaleric acid sweaty, cheesy smell, butyric acid rancid butter smell, propionic acid vinegar smell, trimethylamine fishy smell, sulfur compounds rotten egg smell. The combination creates a scent profile that triggers disgust response in the human brain, an evolved mechanism protecting against disease transmission, rotting food, and environmental hazards. Additionally, clothing unwashed for months develops bacterial colonies producing their own chemical signatures. Military uniforms made from cotton and synthetic blends retain moisture, creating an environment where bacteria thrive. The bacteria produce metabolic byproducts that smell progressively worse over time. Eventually, the clothing itself becomes a source of overwhelming odor independent of the wearer's body. The SAS medical officer documents health consequences. After 60 days without washing, operators present with extensive fungal infections, athlete's foot, jock itch, ringworm, bacterial skin infections, folliculitis, impetigo, severe dental problems, gingivitis, multiple cavities, periodontal disease, parasitic infestations, body lice, scabies, chronic dehydration from inadequate water intake. The medical costs are substantial. Several operators require hospitalization after extended dirty operations. Antibiotics are routinely needed. Dental work becomes extensive, but operational effectiveness justifies medical risks. Interrogation success rates exceed 80% when conducted by long and washed operators versus 40% for conventional interrogation techniques. Village intelligence gathering improves by a factor of 3. Enemy ambush success rate drops to near zero when guerrillas detect approaching SAS patrols by smell, losing tactical advantage through psychological disruption. The mathematics favor continuing doctrine despite health costs. Enemy forces begin psychological operations attempting to counter British advantage. Communist propaganda describes SAS operators as diseased, cursed, unnatural soldiers who abandoned humanity. The propaganda intends to reduce SAS psychological impact through explanation understanding. Source of smell should reduce fear response, but propaganda fails because disgust response operates below conscious control. Even knowing the source doesn't prevent biological reaction to overwhelming odor. One captured guerrilla commander provides a detailed account during interrogation. He describes encountering SAS patrol during night movement. I smelled them before seeing movement. The smell was wrong, not like unwashed men, but like death itself, like bodies left in the sun after battle. My men refused advancing. They said the smell meant disease, plague, and evil. I ordered them forward, but they would not obey. We withdrew without engagement. Better to face guns than face the that smell at close range. The account reveals profound psychological impact. Experienced combat commander, ideologically committed guerrilla, veteran of multiple engagements, reduced to retreat by smell alone. No shots fired, no visual contact, just overwhelming odor creating a response his men could not overcome through discipline or training. The weaponization proves more effective than anticipated. Local Omani forces adopt similar tactics after observing British success. Government soldiers begin extended operations without washing, deliberately cultivating similar smell, discovering similar psychological advantages against guerrilla opponents. The technique spreads throughout theater. Special Air Service training Omani units teaches hygiene elimination as tactical doctrine, not just practical necessity. The smell becomes a standardized weapon employed systematically rather than an accidental byproduct. The bar of soap sitting in supply depots represents a path not taken. Clean soldiers smell normal, face enemies without psychological advantage, rely solely on weapons and training. Filthy soldiers smell disturbing, trigger primal disgust responses, add psychological dimension to tactical capability. Professional operators choose effectiveness over comfort, except that civilized standards sometimes contradict operational requirements. Years later, former guerrilla fighters interviewed about the Dhofar conflict consistently mention the smell as disturbing memory. One describes it: the British soldiers smelled like they had crawled from graves. The smell told us they were different, not normal soldiers following normal rules, but something else. Men willing to abandon humanity for mission success. That willingness frightened us more than their weapons. The testimony captures essential truth. Weaponized filth signals psychological commitment to victory regardless of cost. Soldiers maintaining civilized appearance signal adherence to conventional limits. Soldiers abandoning hygiene signal they recognize no limits, they will do whatever mission requires, accept any personal cost, embrace any tactical advantage regardless of how disturbing. The smell announces, "We are not like you. We do not follow your rules. We will do anything to win." The Dhofar campaign ended in 1976. Government forces defeat communist insurgency through a combination of military action and political reform. SAS operations contribute significantly intelligence gathering, direct action, training programs, and psychological warfare through deliberately weaponized filth. The tactic that began accidentally in Malayan jungle, refined in Borneo operations, achieved full weaponization in the Omani Desert. Elite operators proved that sometimes the most effective weapon is one's own disgusting smell. RAF Lineham, England, 1976. SAS operators returned from Dhofar deployment. They've been operational for 9 months, longest extended deployment in regiment history. The aircraft door opens. Ground crew approaches to assist with equipment unloading. They stop abruptly at 20 meters. The smell hits them like a physical barrier. Medical personnel waiting to conduct post-deployment health screening step back involuntarily. The returning operators notice reactions, show no emotion. They've lived with the smell so long they no longer perceive it. But everyone else does. Decontamination begins immediately. Standard procedure after extended dirty operations. Strip completely. Clothing goes to incinerator. No washing can salvage fabric after 9 months of continuous wear. Multiple showers using industrial strength soap designed for removing grease and oil. Hair shaved completely. Scalp and body hair harbor bacterial colonies resistant to normal washing. Fingernails and toenails trimmed to quick nail beds accumulate grime impossible to remove without cutting. The process takes 4 hours per operator. Medical examinations followed decontamination. Squadron Medical Officer Captain James Thompson documents conditions systematically. All 23 returning operators present with extensive health issues. Skin infections, bacterial folliculitis on 70% of operators, fungal infections on 90%, contact dermatitis on 40%, chronic eczema on 20%, dental problems, periodontal disease on 80%, multiple cavities on 95%, tooth loss on 15%, chronic gingivitis on all operators, parasitic infestations, body lice on 60%, scabies on 30%, Other parasites on 20%. Additional concerns emerge. Chronic dehydration from inadequate water intake. Operators prioritize tactical hydration over optimal hydration, accepting mild dehydration as constant state. Gastrointestinal problems from field sanitation deficiencies. Parasites, bacterial infections, chronic inflammation, respiratory issues from inhaling dust, smoke, and other particulates without protection. Musculoskeletal problems from carrying heavy loads for extended periods without proper recovery. The medical costs are staggering. 3 operators require hospitalization for serious infections, 1 for cellulitis threatening sepsis, 1 for dental abscess requiring emergency surgery, 1 for parasitic infection causing severe gastrointestinal bleeding. 8 operators need extensive dental work, multiple fillings, root canals, crown replacements, periodontal treatments. All operators require antibiotic courses, antifungal medications, antiparasitic drugs, and extensive dermatological care. Thompson compiles a report for command review. His conclusions prove disturbing. Extended operations without hygiene create medical consequences approaching those seen in prisoner of war camps or impoverished civilian populations. The deliberate acceptance of filth as tactical doctrine produces health outcomes typically associated with deprivation, not operational choice. While tactical benefits appear to justify medical costs, we must acknowledge that we are systematically damaging the health of our most valuable personnel for operational advantage. The report generates debate within the SAS command structure. Some officers argue medical costs are unacceptable. Destroying operator health for tactical advantage creates an unsustainable situation. Others counter that operational effectiveness justifies costs. Missions succeed specifically because operators accept these sacrifices. Alternative approaches would result in mission failures and operator deaths. The debate lacks easy resolution because both positions hold merit. Psychological costs prove harder to quantify but equally significant. Regimental psychologists conduct post-deployment interviews. Operators describe difficulty reintegrating into normal military life. After 9 months living like animals, civilized behavior feels artificial, restrictive, unnecessary. Simple activities create stress. Wearing a clean uniform feels wrong. Eating at a table with proper utensils seems excessive. Sleeping in barracks with other soldiers feels vulnerable compared to sleeping in tactical positions with security established. Family reunions prove particularly difficult. Wives describe husbands who return physically but remain psychologically absent. Children show fear or confusion toward fathers who look different, smell different despite multiple showers, act with hypervigilance inappropriate for a civilian environment. One wife reports, "He's been home 3 weeks, but he's not really here. He still moves like he's on patrol, checking corners, watching windows, positioning himself where he can see entrances. He can't sleep normally. He eats too fast. He flinches at sudden noises. It's like he brought the war home inside himself." The psychological transformation from civilized human to operational predator proves easier than reverse transformation. Operators spent 9 months adapting to filth, isolation, constant vigilance, and survival mode. They learned to suppress emotional responses, operate through discomfort, maintain focus despite psychological pressure. These adaptations served them perfectly in Oman. They become liabilities in England. The skills that enabled survival in hostile territory prevent successful reintegration into peaceful society. Some operators report disturbing psychological associations with hygiene. Soap triggers anxiety. Subconscious mind associates washing with vulnerability, exposure, tactical disadvantage. Shaving creates stress. Removing facial hair feels like removing camouflage, exposing oneself to threats. Clean clothing produces discomfort. Uniforms feel too visible, too noticeable, too different from the environment. The psychological connections between filth and safety run deep. Resisting conscious attempts to re-establish normal hygiene patterns. More concerning, some operators actively avoid hygiene even after deployment ends. They shower irregularly, wear clothing multiple days without washing, resist shaving despite regulations. The behavior appears self-destructive, but serves psychological purpose. Maintaining a filthy state preserves operational mindset, prevents full psychological return to civilian standards, keeps operators mentally prepared for immediate redeployment. The filth becomes psychological armor protecting against demands of civilized life. Medical follow-up 6 months post-deployment reveals long-term consequences. Dental problems persist despite extensive treatment. Enamel damage from months without brushing proves irreversible. Gum recession continues despite intervention. Tooth sensitivity becomes chronic condition. Skin conditions recur repeatedly. Fungal infections clear with medication, but return when treatment stops. Bacterial infections require multiple antibiotic courses. Chronic dermatitis becomes permanent conditions, requiring ongoing management. More seriously, several operators develop chronic conditions attributable to extended unsanitary living. One operator diagnosed with hepatitis, a viral infection transmitted through fecal-oral route, contracted during field operations with inadequate sanitation. Another develops chronic parasitic infection, resistant to standard treatments, requires experimental medication and extended treatment protocol. A third experiences permanent tooth loss. Multiple teeth require extraction to decay and infection beyond salvage. The financial costs exceed initial estimates. Medical treatment expenses, disability compensation for permanent conditions, lost operational time during recovery. The accounting reveals that each operator who deployed to Dhofar for extended dirty operations cost the regiment approximately £50,000 in additional medical expenses beyond normal deployment costs. For 23 operators, total additional costs exceed £1 million, substantial expenditure even for a well-funded special operations unit. Yet operational results justify expenses. Intelligence gathered during deployment enabled targeting multiple guerrilla networks, disrupting supply lines, preventing attacks, ultimately contributing to campaign success. Direct action operations eliminated high-value targets, degraded enemy capability, and supported government forces effectively. Training programs established local units capable of independent operations. The Dhofar campaign succeeded partly because SAS operators accepted living in filth for 9 months, gaining tactical advantages impossible through conventional operations. The cost-benefit analysis reveals an uncomfortable truth. Destroying operator health produces operational success. The trade-off seems brutal, but proves mathematically sound. Medical expenses and individual suffering measure smaller than alternative costs of mission failures, additional casualties, prolonged conflicts. Professional military organizations make these calculations routinely. SAS simply makes them more explicit, with greater acceptance of human costs. One operator's post-deployment journal entry captures the psychological toll. I spent 9 months becoming something other than human. I embraced filth, accepted degradation, lived like an animal because the mission required it. I was effective, completed every task, survived every challenge, and contributed to success. But I lost something during those months. Part of me valued civilization, comfort, and appearance. Part of me that cared about being human. I can't fully reclaim that part. It died in Oman, a sacrifice required for tactical advantage. I regret nothing. The mission succeeded because of our sacrifices. But I acknowledge the cost. We gave pieces of our humanity for operational effectiveness. Those pieces don't return. The journal reveals essential tension. Operational effectiveness requires sacrifices extending beyond physical discomfort into psychological transformation. Operators who embrace filth completely, who genuinely stop caring about civilized standards, achieve maximum tactical advantage, but they also undergo changes difficult to reverse. The same adaptations that make them effective operators make them damaged humans. The bar of soap reappears during decontamination. Multiple bars use scrubbing away 9 months of accumulated filth. The soap represents civilization reclaimed, humanity restored, and returned to standards appropriate for peacetime. But the soap also reminds operators what they sacrificed. For 9 months they rejected soap, accepted filth, and became something other than civilized soldiers. The soap cleanses bodies, but cannot cleanse memories of transformation, cannot fully restore psychological state preceding deployment. SAS Command implements policy changes based on DOFAR experience. Maximum deployment duration for extended dirty. Operations limited to 6 months, balancing operational effectiveness against medical risks. Mandatory medical screening every 2 months during deployment, identifying serious conditions early, preventing permanent damage. Post-deployment recovery period extended to 6 weeks, allowing physical healing, psychological readjustment before returning to duty. Dental care enhanced preventive treatments before deployment. Aggressive intervention during recovery. The changes acknowledge reality. Weaponizing filth works tactically but damages operators systematically. The damage is acceptable because mission success justifies individual costs, but damage must be managed, limited, treated. Professional military organizations that destroy personnel unnecessarily cannot sustain operations long term. Balance must exist between effectiveness and sustainability, between tactical advantage and human cost. The soap becomes a symbol of that balance, rejected when necessary, reclaimed when possible, representing standards maintained when operational situations allow. Hereford, England, 2024. SAS Training Wing. Selection course candidates enter the final phase, jungle training in Brunei rainforest. Instructors brief hygiene protocols. You'll operate for 4 weeks without bathing. No soap. No shaving. No toothpaste beyond the first week. You'll smell terrible. You'll feel disgusting. You'll question whether this serves any purpose. Trust the process. Every operator, before you went through this. Every operator who passes will face similar conditions during real operations. Learn now that hygiene is situational, not mandatory. The briefing continues a legacy extending 70 years from Malayan jungle 1952 to modern special operations. The doctrine that began as accidental discovery became refined tactic, then weaponized technique, finally institutionalized training requirement. Modern SAS selection doesn't just test physical fitness or tactical skill, it tests psychological willingness to abandon civilized standards when operations require. Candidates who cannot accept living filthy fail selection not through formal assessment, but through self-selection. They quit because psychological discomfort exceeds their tolerance. The evolution of hygiene doctrine reveals broader transformation in special operations understanding. Early special forces emphasized conventional military virtues: discipline, appearance, standards. World War II commandos maintained grooming standards even during operations. Korean War special forces prioritized military bearing. Vietnam era operators began questioning whether civilized standards served operational effectiveness. By the 1970s, SAS conclusively proved that abandoning hygiene provided tactical advantages, justifying medical and psychological costs. Other special operations forces adopted similar approaches after observing SAS success. U.S. Army Special Forces, operating in Vietnam, conducted extended reconnaissance without hygiene, discovering the same advantages the British experienced in Malaya. Australian SAS are deployed to Vietnam with explicit doctrine eliminating hygiene requirements during deep operations. New Zealand SAS incorporated hygiene elimination into selection training. The technique spread throughout the global special operations community not through formal doctrine exchange, but through operational results proving effectiveness. Modern selection courses worldwide now include extended periods without hygiene. U.S. Navy SEAL training includes Dirty Week. During Hell Week, candidates operate without bathing, learning that discomfort is temporary, but standards of performance remain constant. The U.S. Army Special Forces qualification course includes a survival phase requiring candidates to operate without hygiene products. British Royal Marine Commandos conduct jungle training emphasizing hygiene elimination. The shared approach reflects common understanding. Elite operations sometimes require abandoning civilized conventions. The scientific understanding of hygiene's relationship to tactical operations has evolved significantly. Military researchers studying special operations effectiveness identified multiple mechanisms through which hygiene elimination improves operational outcomes. Scent signature reduction proves most obvious. Artificial fragrances from soap, shampoo, deodorant carry extraordinary distances through air, especially in humid environments. Eliminating these products reduces detection range dramatically. Less obvious. Reduced logistical burden creates operational advantages. Hygiene products require transportation, storage, consumption during operations. Water needed for washing could serve hydration purposes. Time spent maintaining appearance could serve tactical activities. Weight allocated to hygiene items could carry additional ammunition, medical supplies, communications equipment. The cumulative effect of eliminating hygiene logistics extends operational range, reduces resupply frequency, increases self-sufficiency. Psychological aspects prove most complex. Operators who maintain civilized hygiene standards unconsciously preserve psychological connection to civilization there. Soldiers who happen to operate in the wilderness but remain fundamentally civilized humans. Operators who abandon hygiene completely undergo psychological transformation. They become predators adapted to wilderness, temporarily disconnected from civilization, operating under different psychological frameworks. The transformation enables accepting situations, making decisions, tolerating conditions that a civilized mindset would reject. Medical understanding has also advanced. Modern military medicine recognizes extended periods without hygiene create predictable health problems, skin infections, dental disease, parasitic infestations. But medicine also recognizes these conditions are treatable post-deployment. The cost-benefit analysis remains favorable. Temporary health problems that resolve with treatment prove acceptable price for tactical advantages, enabling mission success and reducing casualties during operations. Psychological support for operators conducting extended dirty operations has improved dramatically. Modern special operations forces provide mandatory psychological screening pre-deployment, monitoring during deployment when possible, counseling post-deployment. Psychologists understand that transformation from civilized human to operational predator creates psychological stress requiring professional support. The support doesn't eliminate stress, but helps operators process experiences, manage psychological costs, reintegrate successfully after deployment. The symbolic bar of soap has evolved in meaning. For earlier generations, soap represented civilization that must be abandoned. Modern operators view soap more nuanced. It represents standards applied contextually. Soap is appropriate at base, inappropriate during operations, and becomes appropriate again after deployment. The soap isn't rejected permanently, but temporarily suspended when a tactical situation requires. This psychological framing proves healthier operators don't view themselves as abandoning humanity, but rather as adapting behavior to circumstances. Training methodology reflects this evolution. Modern selection doesn't just expose candidates to extended filth and expect adaptation. Instructors explain psychological transformation, normalize discomfort, provide framework for understanding why hygiene elimination serves operational purpose. Candidates learn that feeling disgusting is normal, expected, shared by every operator who preceded them. The normalization reduces psychological stress, improves acceptance, helps candidates recognize they're undergoing professional development rather than degradation. Technology has complicated hygiene doctrine. The modern military possesses chemical showers, portable decontamination systems using minimal water, chemical wipes for field hygiene, antiseptic products reducing infection risk. Some special operations forces integrate these technologies, maintaining minimal hygiene during extended operations. Others reject technology, maintaining traditional doctrine that complete hygiene elimination provides maximum tactical advantage. The debate continues. Technology advocates argue health benefits justify minimal hygiene. Traditionalists counter that any hygiene products create detection risks and psychological connections to civilization that compromise operational effectiveness. Real-world operations validate continued relevance of hygiene elimination doctrine. SAS operations in Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria involved extended periods without bathing. Operators inserted into remote regions operated independently for weeks, avoided detection through complete adaptation to the environment, including elimination of all artificial scents. U.S. Special Forces conducting village stability operations in Afghanistan discovered that maintaining American hygiene standards created barriers with local populations. Villagers who bathed irregularly found American cleanliness off-putting, artificial evidence of cultural disconnect. Operators who adopted local hygiene patterns built rapport more effectively. Counterterrorism operations present different considerations. Urban special operations typically involve short-duration hours, not weeks. Maintaining normal hygiene proves tactically neutral and psychologically beneficial. Operators can maintain civilized appearance without compromising effectiveness. But even urban operations occasionally require extended surveillance where hygiene elimination provides advantage. Operators conducting multi-day static observation in urban environments find that maintaining too clean appearance while living in abandoned buildings or surveillance positions creates incongruence that might attract attention. Slightly unkempt appearance better matches expected norms for the environment. The future of hygiene doctrine faces uncertain evolution. Advances in scent masking technology might enable maintaining hygiene without creating detection signatures. Chemical products that eliminate body odor without artificial fragrances could allow bathing during operations. Antimicrobial clothing that prevents bacterial growth might reduce smell without requiring washing. These technologies could transform doctrine, enabling hygiene without tactical compromise, but technology faces philosophical resistance. Many special operations veterans argue that hygiene elimination serves purposes beyond scent reduction. The psychological transformation from civilized human to operational predator provides intangible benefits: increased mental toughness, reduced attachment to comfort, greater operational focus. Operators who accept living filthy demonstrate psychological commitment technology cannot replicate. The willingness to abandon civilized standards signals dedication exceeding what comfortable operators achieve. One retired SAS regimental sergeant major, veteran of Dhofar, Falklands, Iraq, summarizes philosophy. Modern soldiers want technology to solve every problem. They want comfortable solutions to uncomfortable situations. Special operations doesn't work that way. Sometimes tactical advantage requires genuine sacrifice, not just risk of death, but acceptance of degradation, discomfort, disgust. The bar of soap represents choice: maintain comfort or achieve effectiveness. Professional special operations forces choose effectiveness. Always. The operators who cannot make that choice shouldn't be here. The statement captures enduring truth. Elite operations require accepting conditions that civilized society rejects. Technology might reduce some costs of that acceptance, but the core requirement remains: operators must possess the psychological capacity to abandon civilized standards when missions require, embrace disgusting conditions without hesitation, and recognize that sometimes smelling like death is exactly what keeps you alive. Modern selection candidates face the same choice predecessors faced 70 years ago: accept filth or fail. The choice hasn't changed despite technological advances, medical improvements, and psychological understanding, because fundamental reality hasn't changed. Special operations occur in environments where civilization's rules don't apply, against enemies who exploit any weakness, under conditions that reveal whether operators possess genuine commitment or merely adequate competence. The bar of soap sits in every SAS barrack. Simple item. Ancient technology. Symbolic weight far exceeding practical function. The soap represents standards maintained when possible, discarded when necessary, reclaimed when appropriate. The soap teaches that civilization provides comforts worth defending, but that sometimes defending civilization requires temporarily abandoning its comforts. The soap reminds operators that hygiene is privilege, not returned through safe environments, lost in dangerous ones, restored through mission success. The legacy continues. Each generation of Special Operations Forces discovers the same truth their predecessors learned. Sometimes the disgusting secret of elite operations is that they're genuinely disgusting. No glamour, no glory, just filthy humans living like animals, accepting degradation as tactical necessity, proving through sacrifice that they'll do whatever mission requires, regardless of personal cost. The smell of unwashed operators, that overwhelming, disturbing, primal stench announces psychological truth. We recognize no limits. We accept any sacrifice. We will do anything to win. That announcement, delivered through biological weapons developed accidentally in Malayan jungle, refined deliberately in the Omana Desert, institutionalized permanently in selection courses worldwide, remains the most effective psychological warfare tool Special Operations Forces possess. They smell like death because they've temporarily abandoned life as civilized humans understand it. They've descended into something more primitive, more effective, more dangerous. They've become predators operating beyond civilization's rules. And when mission ends, when they return, when they reclaim their humanity through decontamination and reintegration, they carry knowledge that civilization rests on foundations defended by those willing to temporarily abandon civilization itself. The soap cleanses bodies, but memory remains of weak smelling terrible, feeling disgusting, knowing you're effective specifically because you accepted becoming something less than human. That memory transforms operators permanently. They return to civilization change knowing they possess the capacity to abandon it again when necessary, understanding that their willingness to make that sacrifice exactly what makes them elite. The disgusting secret remains secret only to those outside special operations. Inside the community, it's a simple truth acknowledged universally. Sometimes the difference between success and failure, between life and death, between completing mission and failing mission, is willingness to smell terrible while doing what civilization requires but cannot watch. The bar of soap waits, always available, always temporary, always a symbol of choice between comfort and effectiveness. And every special operations soldier who earned the right to make that choice knows the answer already. Mission first, hygiene second, forever.